21 Savage American Dream album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning. Here tonight to chat about this latest full-length album from 21 Savage American Dream. This is a guy, he's been at it for years now. UK via Atlanta MC. He's been at it for a few years now. You should probably know the guy by now if you're a fan of modern hip-hop. And in the early days, I wrote the guy off. Honestly, I really did. His early mixtapes, the Issa tape, the first Savage Mode project, these albums were all misses in my group. Honestly, on one hand, I did like his Icy Cold Delivery 21, and I did really like, a lot of his sort of edgy lyrical content, just the power violence and the horror references. Something about that kind of resonated with me, but outside of that, I just wasn't really feeling his music. I actually thought that we'd kind of hit a lull in modern hip-hop. However, the years so far have been pretty good to 21, actually. With each featured spot that he lands, I feel like he's just gotten better and better and better. His Without Warning album with Offset and Metro Boomin, as far as I'm concerned, it's a modern sort of cult classic. It's one of my favorite rap tapes of the last decade. Savage Mode 2, I thought it was a lot better than 1. Also, his last studio album, I Am Greater Than I Was, I thought was a really interesting sort of conscious take from him. Hell, even Her Loss has grown on me. I actually really salute the way that 21 on that project really brought out the rawer side of Drake, which we haven't heard in some time. So the years have been very good to 21, and I've been very, very excited to hear this new album from him, which actually, when I think about it, he hasn't dropped a solo album since 2018, which is crazy to think about. But yet, here we are, American Dream, let's chat about it. And I will say this, for a lot of this album, 21 continues to grow and push himself in a healthy direction. All of Me, early on in the album, this track is just classy. The beat here and the production are rubbing me all sorts of the right ways. Honestly, I really do love the sort of chipmunk soul sample that we get here, and 21's Icy Cold Delivery sounds just as ever. And on top of that, I'm happy to hear 21 so focused as he is on this track. Even though lyrically, there are some sus lines. Really likable though, and REDRUM is just nothing short of a banger. Yes, please. Now, it did take me a little bit of time to warm up to this track, to be perfectly honest, but once it did, it really hit hard. I love the sampling on this track. I mean, this thing is just a ridiculously icy, cold killer of a track, with 21 just sounding out of his mind. Lyric-wise, we continue to not be going, very deep at the end of the day, but this kind of comes off as like an Issa-era banger, but like a lot better. N.H.I.E featuring Doja Cat, love this track as well. I love the gritty sort of monochromatic film over this track. A lot of these tracks do have this sort of, neo-noir sense to them, and this track is just another great example of that. I love the biographical bars that we get from 21 as this album rolls on. You're only going to see more and more of those. And this bluesy, dreary, gritty, rainy day beat just goes up against this very introspective bars really nicely. And Doja Cat's verse is actually pretty decent. And then we have Pop Your Shit featuring Young Thug and Metro Boomin, and hear me out. I actually love this track. I love how dreary this is and just how ridiculously heavy this track gets. This atmosphere, all in all, is exactly where I want to hear 21 Savage. This is him in a nutshell. And I get it, it's not the most hyped track here, but something about this track actually does work for me. I mean, the poop line, a lot of people are pointing fingers at that, and I'm not defending that. That was awful. But the rest of this track is seriously really nasty, and Young Thug, who I've never been a big fan of, actually brings the heat and brings a really great verse. And the one thing that I will definitely not knock is a lot of the production on this album. A lot of it's handled by Metro Boomin, a lot of it is done by Honorable C-Note, and a lot of these beats and production actually sound really, really great. Letter to My Brudda is just another example of that. This is another very super classy, elegant, almost like early 2000s hip-hop sounding to me, but 21 does it actually a lot of justice. It continues to be seriously autobiographical, which I commend him for. I mean, if you haven't heard 21 solo stuff in a while, definitely give this a shot. However, I will say this. I personally think his last solo album was a lot better, because this album a lot of the time is a real mixed bag. American Dream, this album's very short intro, this spoken word piece, I just don't think it's done right. I mean, I have no problem with 21 getting a little bit more conscious on us and bringing us into his life a little bit more. I salute that. But this just seems a little misguided. We get to tracks like Sneaky and it all of a sudden just takes such a nosedive. I mean, the beat here is just as frigid and icy cold as the rest of this tape. But here we see 21 lose focus for a few minutes. I mean, lyrically, he's always been a mixed bag, but this is a serious, just, I don't know, just real serious, not a very good track. It's just a little all over the place, and I think my biggest knock with this record, the biggest issue that I have with it, is I don't really know where 21 wants to go from here. I mean, part of him seems like he wants to be this conscious, down-to-earth guy that's a little bit more revealing, and that's totally fine, but he also wants to be this absolutely icy, cold-blooded killer. Both are fine, both are really great, and I appreciate them, but when they kind of clash like they do on this album quite a bit, things get sloppy. Like Dangerous, for example, featuring Lil Durk and Metro Boomin. This is one of the biggest downfalls here. This is just such a letdown. The beat here, the production, it did a great job of hyping me up. And Lil Durk, who I've really never chatted about much because I've just always been so middle of the road on him, his verse here is fantastic. But outside that, there really isn't a lot to dive into on this track. This track has so much potential, but it's just so average at the end of the day, and the cheesy line just kind of continue to pile up. See the Real is just a miss in every way. I think it's the worst track here. I don't know where we got this sunny, synth-driven beat. And like I said, I have no issue with 21 getting a little bit more conscious. I salute it. But this track doesn't play to his strengths at all. His singing on this track is really not up to snuff. Like, at all. And by this point, the cliches are just pouring in and I can't even hold them all in my hands. Then we have Just Like Me late in the album, and much like 21, I feel like a lot of the beats on this project don't really know what direction to go either. We get another fairly old school beat on this track and Burna Boy on this hook, but things just go downhill from there. This track as it stands, it's just so plain Jane. It is just so average, and this instrumental is a mess. And Red Sky definitely has a lot of potential. I commend just how epic it honestly is, and there's a serious amount of like cinematic energy here. And it's a real shame because it doesn't go the full distance. I mean, we'll start with the good. 21 is hyped on this track, and his verse is energetic, it is gritty, it is nasty. What I don't love is how this track falls apart every time Tommy Newport shows up for a hook. I mean, this track absolutely crumbles to pieces. It really takes me out of the element, and Mickey Echo is barely even heard. So yeah, this is a very inconsistent album, much less consistent than his last solo album. But I will say this, 21 has a charm to him, and I don't know, something about him continues to reel me in, and I'll absolutely check out whatever he does next. Like NÉE-NAH featuring Travis Scott and Metro Boomin. This is awesome, and after hearing Travis completely whiff both of his features on the new Kid Cudi album, go check out the review. This track was a breath of fresh air. This is a sharp, focused, gritty trap banger. Travis sounds hyped. I love his verse a lot. Love the production on this track. And 21, while he's at his campiest here, I think it works. I actually really love Prove It featuring Summer Walker as well. This is an elegant, soulful hip-hop tune with a lot of heart, showing it's on its sleeve. And this is exactly how I want to see 21 push himself. I love hearing his performance on his beat. He's still able to clearly be himself here, but also be really cute and sweet at points too. And Summer Walker's contribution's not bad at all. Just know that this is very different for him. Also, really love Should've Worn a Bonnet featuring Brent Faiyaz. I don't know where 21 is really pulling these beats from, but he's certainly pushing himself. Once again, this is shockingly old school. I mean, there's elements here of early 2000s hip-hop, even slight nods to G-Funk. And Brent Faiyaz, I mean, like, his vocals on this track really don't add too much. They are very, very average, but 21 seems to be, laser focused once again. He sounds fired up. He sounds nasty. I love it. And Dark Days featuring Mariah the Scientist, I'm just going to say it, I think 21 saved the best track for last. In every way, this is the kind of track that I expected to hear for this whole project. It's gritty, it's dark, it's very, very real. It's got that conscious side to it, but it's also very bleak. It's 21 being himself, but pushing himself further. And Mariah the Scientist's vocals honestly bring this track together. If this is a direction that 21 wants to go in, I'm all for it. I will sign up for it now. But for now, this is another very mixed bag from 21 Savage. I mean, yes, he's definitely taking some big steps to push himself. You know, the conscious side of this album is really interesting. The introspective bars, for the most part, are okay, but still, there is a lot of mixed bags here. I mean, 21 sounds half the time like he doesn't know what direction he wants to go in. Hell, these beats half the time don't know what they want to do with their lives. And honestly, a lot of the contributors kind of whiff themselves as well. And of course, with the 21 Savage project, you're always going to get a handful of tracks with really sus lyrics. But there's a lot of great material on here. I'm feeling a decent 6 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.